Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Lin. I am the CEO and one of the co-founders behind Blendspace. I am really excited to be joining you via the Google Hangout with Joe Fore. He will be stepping through how do you create collaborative presentations using Blendspace. And a little bit about Joe. So Joe is a director of digital education and education professor at Wisconsin Lutheran College. And he started his educational career as a biology and mathematics teacher. He now owns Do4 Communications, New Line Education, and Digital Publishing House, and he's promoting digital citizenship, literacy, immersion, and creativity. Joe is also a TEDx presenter, a techno nerd, a horrible skateboarder, but likes to enjoy and spend his time consulting, speaking, helping teachers, schools, and communities identify the best ways to incorporate technology. Some housekeeping rules as we're doing this webinar today. Feel free to use the hashtag #Blendspace to ask any questions and to monitor the progress. I'll be looking at any type of questions that you may have on the right-hand side, and then we're going to just be bringing those up at the end. We're going to be spending about 20 minutes with Joe doing his presentation, and then in the last 10 minutes, if you have any questions via Twitter, please feel free to ask them, and we'll be going through those questions at the end. Now I'll hand it over to Joe.
Thank you very much. And so, yeah, realistically, this is a 20-minute breakdown of what I call CRP School, Collaborative Research Presentation. So it's not just collaborative presentations. We throw in one more component of research in here, and that's what I'm going to take you through today. And like I say, it's a 20-minute breakdown, smash up, walkout version of it. And I'm not even going to play this video for you, which would actually just let me tell you in different form what a collaborative research presentation is. It really is creating a presentation through research with the digital technology tools like Blendspace here that provide you the perfect opportunity for students to collaborate around something while they're doing research and embedding information so that when they're done on the other end, they can actually present, whether it's virtually or face-to-face. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But realistically, so one of the things you can do is figure out what do students feel, or how do students feel about a certain topic. You can gather information, you can quiz them and find out whether Torrance tests measure creative thought, which is exactly what they do. And creative thought has been proven to be one of the motivating factors, one of the best predictors in a student's success. So if we can make students more creative, I'm going to submit my answer and see how I did. I got an A. That's wonderful. It's one of the best predictors of seeing if students can achieve and will achieve in their life. And here's a quick quote from Steve Jobs. Just basically says that creativity is just connecting things. When we ask creative people how they did something, a lot of times they have absolutely no idea exactly how they did it. They just pulled in components from all over the place into one area. And so that's part of what these CRPs and Blendspace can really do. And one of the reasons why we want to focus on collaboration would be shown through this presentation. And all of you have access to this presentation, by the way. We'll post it. We'll put it out on the Twitter feed for you all to take a look at. So if you do want to watch this video, I just want to showcase this for 1 second.
Let's face it, in today's economy, if you don't have the right information and knowledge at the right time, then you can't be competitive.
So what's the baseline here? That's the very beginning of this video tells us if we can't collaborate, we're not even hitting the baseline of what we need to do, not in education, but actually out in the real world. And so this is a business video that just showcases for us exactly why we want students to be collaborating, not just to be fun and frilly and let the students have a good time, but to actually teach them life skills that they can then gather around. And the old style collaboration, the way that we used to collaborate, you know, in the 19th century and before, was around a piece of paper typically, but now we have wonderful tools like what we're going to go through today that actually alleviate and show us different ways and dynamic ways to collaborate. So collaboration is not just important because it's a better way to learn. In the spirit of collaboration, you can see here it's penetrating every part of our lives, essentially. It's how we get along, it's what we do, it's how we network with people. That is living collaboration is. And the last part, so the CRP, so we have the collaboration, and you can figure out the presentation, but we're going to hit up on research as well, which is research is creating that new knowledge. It's obviously learning, but creating knowledge in our own minds. And that is a highly important part. And here's one of the things about Blendspace. And if I were to back out of this presentation for just 1 second, you can see here's my presentation sitting out here. And the share button is where I'm going to hit that exact image, which is right here, that shows what I can do with Blendspace account, especially certain types of accounts in here. You can share over here on the left, privacy, collaborate, but I can invite other people into my presentation so they can work on it with me once I have the proper things done. And the best part about these types of presentations, once we've collaborated around them, you can see that our brains can actually access them. We can gather information from any different aspect or from any different tool, whether it's a smartphone or iPad or just a regular old computer. Even if you can't collaborate with people, or when you're done collaborating with people, one of the genius parts of these cloud-based tools like Blendspace are that you can then share them out. You actually have a link to this presentation right here, but you can certainly share via Facebook. You can even take and embed this presentation into a website or into Edmodo or into Blackboard or Moodle. You can even be ridiculously clever as an instructor and create your own QR code, and people can snap shots of your QR code and pull that presentation up from nearly anywhere, anytime, and all of these brains can be collaborating around one single topic from virtually anywhere. So what makes the brain happy? I think we've already pretty much established that collaboration makes it happy, but the one thing that I think we're missing so far in this discussion is that novelty. Novelty makes brains happy. It's one of the reasons why they discovered that songbirds actually grow new neural tissue. It's one of the reasons why humans actually grow new brain tissue. Whether you knew that or not, your whole life you've probably been told you don't ever grow brain tissue, but you actually do. When you do something new, when you learn something new, you're actually capable of creating new brain tissue. And all of this is wrapped inside that cloud, inside that wonderful, nebulous, sort of fluffy region out there on the internet that allows us to work together, share instantaneously, and to be able to work all together. So this is the part where you probably want to say, all right, stop talking about all this fluffy stuff and just show me what a CRP is, which is exactly what I'm about to do. So I'm going to show you an example one here of the Korean War. This is created by a former student of mine, and she now actually helps me create the crpschool.com website, which actually allows you to get other people's CRPs and give CRPs to other people, and her name's Alexa. But you'll see here, this is the CRP. A CRP is a place, it's a presentation, in this case it's a Blendspace presentation that you can walk your students through. And here's the ISTE standards for this CRP. And now all of a sudden you're going to see there are directions. The directions say follow the directions in red, then delete and recolor when finished. Who in the world is this teacher talking to? Well, in this case, the teacher is talking to the student. This is essentially like a web quest now, where the teacher is giving the student information about what they're going to do, the steps that they're going to follow while they go through this presentation, through this Blendspace presentation. And as they go through, they're going to insert pictures and videos, they're going to relocate things, organize stuff, and they're actually going to collaborate together as they research while they're going through this presentation. So now if I go over here, here's introductory topics and objectives for the lesson, followed by a picture, and if I open this up right here, you're going to see there are comments areas right here inside of Blendspace that we're going to take advantage of in 1 second. So right here, key terms and concepts. You can see that key terms and concepts in this case have been populated by the instructor, and that's the framework of the instructor. They give a little bit to the students, then here are the expectations over here. I don't know if you can see them, they might be rather small. From the teacher it says, add additional terms. You must add at least 3 extra terms based on new concepts that you learn. So as the students work through this presentation, because remember, this presentation has these students collaborating around this. So this presentation has been shared with the students. Students can now comment back. They can leave comments for one another over here on the right-hand side, but they're also able to work on the document together if they have full collaboration rights to this presentation. Now you go to the next part, and it says, because this is written in red, the teacher has given instructions for the students to list out some key parts of the movie that they watched in class, and if they can't remember the movie that they watched in class, they actually have a hyperlink straight to it, because within this you're able to provide hyperlinks to videos. I think we may have lost my video. I'm not positive here. Then I go to the next part here. I'm going to just check to see if we lost the...
Hi, I'm Ben Arona, here for About.com.
I did. I lost the Hangout.
Joe, you're still good. We still see you.
Oh, goodness. I'm sorry. Yeah. It looks like everything's gone to me in the one spot. Okay, sorry. My bad. So here we have a video then. Now they haven't watched this video in class. This video is being given to the students by the teacher, because when you're creating something in Blendspace, one of the things you'll notice right away is how easy it is. And this may sound like a plug for Blendspace, because it really is in this case. Absolutely. You can insert videos like this simply by typing in a topic up here. So I can type in Korea, and once I type in that objective here, it'll let me preview any of the videos, and then I can take and just drag and drop that video into place. And once that video is in place, it can be a learning tool that I've actually given to the students that they have to watch and learn something from. So it's almost like a way of flipping content out of your classroom and into the students' laps back at home. I'm just going to run through this one more time, kind of catch back up to where we were. So this is that video. Students have to watch it. When they're done watching it, now that collaborative piece comes back into this. So the research is the video. They have to watch the video and dig deep into some other websites, and then they collaborate together to complete that presentation. Here's another clever way to do this. You have this image here, and the notes from the instructor say that based on the video, the two videos that you watched, and all the content that you've been learning, you have to incorporate this picture into your presentation that you're going to present back to the class. And so they have to know enough about the Korean War to assimilate this image into their presentation, which is higher level thinking, higher order thinking that we are looking for in all of our students. You can even do a fill-in-the-blank style page or sheet, and with Blendspace you can even build in there quiz for students to actually go through and answer the questions from the previous video or from the website that they've been looking into. And in this case, it's just a fill-in-the-blank section. Then we have the reverse of what we just had, which is instead of here's a picture incorporated into your presentation, the teacher now gives the students I skipped ahead. This teacher now gives the students some information and says, you have to pick a picture that actually is relevant and speaks to the topic that we're talking about here. So you have all these different ways of assessing students as you go through this. At the same time, not only are you assessing them, but again, they're bringing all of those assessments and all their learning together, all their research together to create a presentation that then they can give at the end of the entire thing. So this is basically a little bit more of the same. Teacher provides the picture, and now the students have to find images and or videos here that actually speak to the point that the teacher wants them to make. And now here at the end we have even an analysis of primary resources, and the teacher gives a hyperlink to some of the information that they want the student to go through, and with Blendspace you can actually embed the website directly into the page so the students can search around on the page right from within the actual presentation without ever having to leave it. And now each student has to create their own tile or their own slide in Blendspace and color code it with their name and their primary resource. I think that you're basically getting the idea of how powerful this whole collaborative and research connectedness can truly be within Blendspace. And I'm going to jump back a little bit just to go over some of the key points and some of the key topics here to show you some of the things that you can consider putting in here if you're doing a CRP for your classroom. There's 3 different areas that you really have to focus on. One is presenting content. So you have to understand that you are presenting the students with content, much like a web quest, like I was explaining before, or much like an online learning system or learning management system, where you're giving them videos, you're giving them written information, you're giving them explanations about what you're expecting of them, you're creating that framework, but you're also trying to find those components where you can assess back from them how much they're learning, whether it's through a Blendspace quiz or having them create that image or find the video that actually aligns with what they've been talking about. You can even have online discussions, which is a huge part of online learning and flipping the classroom as well. So you can build into that, because I don't know if you noticed or not, but you have that ability in Blendspace right here to not only leave regular comments, written typed comments like this. So let's say comment on this. I need to learn how to type. There we go. But I can also, when I have the higher level accounts, I can leave voice comments for each other, much like VoiceThread, much like some of the other presentation things, but it's all built into one area where I can leave comments for one another. We can have a discussion around an image or a topic. Some of the content delivery concepts that you want to think about is obviously you can deliver text. You can put in hyperlinks to just about anything, to other slides within the presentation, to external links, to emails. You can insert images, insert videos, insert discussions. There's so many different things that you can actually do in order to facilitate this collaboration piece. But even within discussion, you can discuss using comments, color coding, and that voice insert. The assessment piece, here's just some quick assessment ideas. You can have students you can assess their comments to one another, or you can even have them comment around an image, and that's the part that you're assessing. Maybe that's a quiz question that you're having them comment back to. You can certainly assess what they type on each slide for their presentation. You can assess those images that you've asked them to insert. You can assess the quizzes, obviously, when you've created a quiz, but you can even assess the videos that they pick, and certainly the presentation that they give at the end. And one of the most genius parts of Blendspace is you can assess at least a little bit based on the metrics that you see. And Blendspace has these multifaceted different metrics pieces for students and understanding what students have done while they move through your video. You can see how many minutes were spent by how many students. You can see how many students liked and disliked, or you can check all the comments that were created. You can even check the quizzes and the results of those things. And each of these areas you can click on and drill down into and see a little bit more information about them. Here are some other things to consider, including intro and objectives that you saw at the beginning, directions for the students, how they're supposed to work through the CRP. Obviously, you want to include content. You want to include assessments, but you may want a rubric at the very end or at the very beginning of the framework, so students know exactly what they're supposed to go through. And wrap-up roles, no, I definitely misspelled that on purpose, but wrap-up roles would be, now you're going to assign students who are the leaders, who are the copy editors, who are going to be the aesthetic editors, and they're going to go back through the presentation and make it all look the same, make it all function the same, so that when they get to the actual presentation part, they are ready to go. And now you have two different, with Blendspace, you have two very valid and viable ways to present your information. You can certainly do it face-to-face in your classroom. Have a group of students, 4 or 5, put this presentation together, and now they stand in front of class, and face-to-face always wins in my estimation, but they can present in front of class. Or you can have them all embed or share links in Edmodo or someplace else where they watch each other's presentations, because they actually have that ability then to record their voices so they can actually speak on each slide, and then everyone else can view each other's presentations and the way that they're presented. And a really clever way that you can use CRPs in conjunction with something called Picha Kucha style is tell them that they make a whole new type of presentation where you say you only get 20 slides, one slide or one image per slide, and you only get 20 seconds of talk time per slide. Just watch how they begin to condense down and pick very solid images. They condense down all the information so that they know exactly what they're talking about. They're well rehearsed and well on their way to doing a solid CRP that everyone else can watch in a very short amount of time. You also have just a couple of things. These are the last few notes on CRPs. How do you make CRPs work in your classroom? The very first thing you have to do is you have to create that framework, and then you have to disseminate it to the students. So in other words, you have to share it out with them, collaborate with them through the share button or creating a classroom. Then you have to discuss it. The very first time you do a CRP in class, you're going to have to discuss it in class and explain how it works and set up those roles perhaps of who's the leader, who's the copy editor, and those types of things. Then you have to do it, and if you only do it one time in your entire life, it may not be worth it. But repeating it, I promise the second, third, and seventh time going through CRPs and collaborative presentations really starts to hit home with students. There's all different types of CRPs that you can do. You can do exit slips with your students. You can do book throughs where you have each chapter and framed out for the students, and they actually work together in groups of 2 or more to work through your book. You have story trains. Story trains are rather interesting, and we just don't have time to go through those. Lab journals, I think you can kind of figure out, but there are at least 12 major frameworks that you can go through in CRP fashion that allow you to deliver content to your students, make them do research, make them collaborate, and then give you a viable way of assessing what they have done and what they've created. That is the end of my CRP presentation. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to crpschool.com, or we'll be posting more stuff about it, more than likely on Blendspace itself.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Joe, for that great presentation on how do you create CRPs within Blendspace. There are a couple of questions on Twitter right now that I'm going to go ahead and answer. And so we have Mark Dunk, and he was asking why are some websites not embeddable within Blendspace. And that is something that we're working with tons of website providers in terms of just making sure that we can add them into Blendspace. There are some folks who prevent their websites from being embedded directly within other sites. Quizlet is one example, but we do work with tons of different folks in terms of being able to have them within Blendspace. So if there's anyone that you're looking to be able to add within Blendspace and it's not working, just please send me an email. My email is just amylin@blendspace.com, amylin@blendspace.com, and we're happy to go ahead and try to work those out with those content providers. One question that we have for you, Joe, from Dennis is, how do I make multiple copies of a partial presentation to give to students to complete?
To make multiple copies let's see here. Realistically, okay, you can make multiple copies. I would just make, and actually, Amy, you may have a better answer for this than I do within Blendspace itself and how to make those multiple copies of that same exact presentation. But realistically, you should be able to then disseminate just that presentation to the students, and if they can make copies of it, that's how I would have them do it.
Yeah, I'm happy to share with how do we make that happen within Blendspace. So when you're looking at another type of, looking at another Blendspace, what you can do here is on the upper left-hand corner, there's a button that says Copy. All you need to do is just click that button, and then you are able to get another version of that Blendspace within your own account. One thing to note there is that we don't copy over documents, uploaded documents, or uploaded video simply because of copyright issues. We want to be able to protect any type of personal work that teachers or students may have. But this is a really great way, for example, to start a scaffolding for one of your students. Or, for example, Joe mentioned in his CRP, insert tile here to be able to answer the question that's from before. So you can definitely use text as a way to be able to copy various Blendspaces and then be able to give that to your students. So not only you as a teacher can copy your colleagues or other Blendspaces that you see on the site, but students can also go to your Blendspace that you will like them to copy. And it starts off as a template for them and provides that initial scaffolding for their CRP.
Perfect. And actually, I think you answered his question much better than I could, and that's typically how we do CRPs, is that the teacher doesn't make a copy at all. They give the link to the students. Students make their own copy. That way the teacher doesn't have tons of copies.
Right. Fantastic. Let's see. Any other questions? Let me look here. I think those are all the questions that I see so far coming via Twitter. We will be here, for a little bit of just answering any questions that you may have. And for anyone who is on the webinar right now and anyone that we've been chatting with so far, via Twitter. We do have an exciting announcement if anyone hasn't heard about Blendspace Premium yet, but it does open up a lot of these great collaborative features that Joe talked about. So instead of just having one student or just having yourself being able to work on a Blendspace at a time, Blendspace Premium actually enables you to be able to collaborate with your peers along with your students to be able to collaborate with your peers. So right now we have an additional 10% off in terms of anyone who wants to upgrade within any of the attendees of this webinar. And so I'll be sending all that information out via a follow-up email at the end of this webinar. So definitely, if you really are interested in having and fully being able to immerse yourselves in creating collaborative research presentation, that's a fantastic way to be able to get a lot of other folks' input and having your students being able to work on a lesson, on a Blendspace at the same time. Joe, do you have any last comments?
I do not. I definitely thank you for letting me air my ideas on the Blendspace space.
Well, it's fantastic having you join us today, and I will be sending out the video link to this initial webinar, and I thank everyone for watching tonight. And we will also be doing 2 more webinars with Joe next Monday and the Monday after that at the same time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. So if you haven't registered for those yet, they're just below on your screen, and you're able just to put in your name, put in your information, and I'll make sure to be sending you a webinar reminder the night before so you can catch these. And for anyone who's joining us late who wants to be able to review the great insights that Joe talked about today, I will also be hosting all of these websites, all of these videos on our website on blendspace.com, and you'll each get a link to them so you can always go back, revisit. And if you have any questions, feel free to tweet at Joe. I put his Twitter handle on the hashtag Blendspace Twitter stream, so you can find that as well. And you can always tweet at us at blendspace.com. And so we're happy to help out in any way that we can. Hope that everyone has a great rest of their evening, and we hope to see you guys next week at the same time, 5 p.m. Pacific time, for our next webinar, which is around digital storytelling. Thanks, everyone, and have a great night.